Hey, Tia. Taking you forever to sit. What's up, guys? Hope you're doing great. This is your boy Kobe Shots. In today's video, we're gonna go back into the basics where we'll start from one light setup all the way through to 3 light setup. With me here is the beautiful model, and she's Tia. She's gonna be the model for today for all the 3 light setups that we are going to look at. So without much ado, let's get right into it. So yeah, guys, this is our first setup, a 1 light setup, and it's going to be very simple, but we're going to configure it in some diverse ways. We're going to reposition it and, try to eradicate some of the shadows that are going to be caused by this particular light, because you're not using a reflector first of all. Because normally, if you want to bounce some light back into where the light doesn't touch, you're going to have to need a reflector to do that. But in this case, you're not going to do that because sometimes you can prefer to go with some contrast. That's what you're going to get with this. And the setup I'm shooting on is Canon EOS R with a 50mm 1.2 lens. And I'll be triggering the AD600 with the Godox X1T trigger. Okay, so let's start. My settings are, I'm shooting at shutter speed of 1/800 and an f.2 of an aperture, and I'm shooting at high speed sync so that can get more contrast and still beat the sync speed of the camera. Okay, so Tia, can you please reduce the height of where your face is? So lower your head a little bit more. Okay, cool. 3, 2, 1. Good. Okay, so in this picture, definitely you are going to not like it because of the nasty shadows that we have here. So what you can do if, for instance, you don't have a reflector on set is that you can make your model set up right a little bit more and lift her face up instead of lowering her head. So can you lift your face a little bit? Not too much, lower it a little bit. All right, cool. But straighten your head. Okay. Chin up a little bit. Good. 3, 2, 1. Okay, now you see that there's a huge difference over here. When she had her face lowered, there were a lot of deeper shadows down there, under the chin, under the nose, and the eye sockets. But comparatively to this particular picture, it's a little bit much more opened up. But of course, you're still going to need a reflector if you want to eradicate most of the shadows. Okay, so this is actually one setup that we call the butterfly configuration, where the light is actually positioned above the model in a 45-degree angle. And let's look at what we can also do with other configurations, still with a 1 light setup. This is our second lighting configuration where we have the light right on top of our model. So with the help of the model light in this flash, the AD600, we can actually see what the light does in the face of our model. Okay, so if I turn the softbox all the way backwards like this, you notice that the light leaves the model. So normally I find myself tuning the lights a little bit forward from the model so that most of the light of the surface of the diffusion actually hits her face and continues over there down her chin down to her upper torso. Okay, so if you want to really get more or much from such a configuration, you're going to definitely have to bring in a reflector, because the introduction of the reflector is going to help accentuate the light even much more, bouncing back into the shadows like we spoke about earlier. Furthermore, we can introduce what we call the grid in front of our softbox. Normally, when you buy softboxes, they come with this. And this helps to center or accentuate the light and make it even much more narrow so that it doesn't really spill against backgrounds. I've actually brought my model way forward from the background so that we wouldn't touch it so much, so that when we are going on with or adding more lights to creatively light our background separately, we can have the ease of access to do that. So we're going to introduce the grid in front of the softbox. Then we'll see how the lighting is going to play on our model. In the previous pictures that you just saw, you notice that the introduction of the grid was giving us a lot of shadows, and we are going to try to eradicate that or to take that out by bouncing light back into the subject where the light doesn't fall. And that's why we have the reflector here. So Ben is going to help me out with assistance. So Ben, what I want you to do is place the reflector right underneath the model this way. And can you step a little bit to your right? Okay, so just like so. Then Tia, I would like you to face me this way. So when the light shoots through the diffusion panel of the softbox, plus going through the grid itself, it hits the surface of the reflector, bounces back into the areas that the shadows are, and our light is narrowed because of the grid, and so we are still not going to get light spillage against the background behind our model. Okay, so let's take a couple of shots, right? So let's take a couple of shots and let's see the results. Okay. All right, so a significant difference is what we see right now, because we notice that the reflector is bouncing a little bit light into the shadowy areas, but not as much because of the position of the reflector. So what I want you to do is that, you see, light travels and bounces and goes back in the opposite direction. So if you have your reflector down this way and the light hits the reflector, it goes up this way, probably might not hit your subject so much. So what you're going to do is you're going to redirect the light back into the subject so that when it hits, it goes this way, deflects that way. Okay, so let's try this time around. Okay, so Tia, look at me. Good. So you notice that it is much more open in the area of the chin, the neck area. Okay, still maintaining the same power. All right, and likewise, if we let the light bounce against the reflector from this particular angle, you're going to notice that the light will hit the subject from this side, just like the reflector is being a second light or whatsoever, but it's just a reflection or a bounce back into the shadow areas. So you should always be mindful about where you position your reflector, because that's where it's going to bounce the light back into the subject's face or wherever it stands against. Okay. All right. Okay, so this particular configuration might not be ideal for everyday portrait photography because you're going to get a lot of dramatic shadows there. So what we're going to do is we are going to change our configuration and ensure that the position of the light is quite, feasible to give us more light into the shadowy areas, and we wouldn't necessarily need so much of the reflector. And also, to add on to the effect, we are going to take off the grid and furthermore pull our subject away from the background so that the light doesn't touch, because this time you're not controlling the light beam as much. Okay, so sorry. All right, now you can sit. Then we push this way. All right, then this way. Okay. All right, so this is the configuration I was talking about. This is what we call the butterfly configuration, all right? So I've pulled my subject away from the background, and equally, I have to maintain the same position of the light as it was before when she was further back. All right, so you notice that this is way much forward or way much ahead of our subject, because we want more light to hit not just her face, but also to concentrate over here without the reflector. That's the key word, without the reflector. And we are going to introduce the reflector so we see if the latter works better than the former. So let's start. Okay, so let me check. Okay, so Tia, get your really. All right, now focus. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Look at me. So you notice that in these pictures, even though there's no reflector introduced in the set, we still have a lot of soft shadows in the areas that they were so much before when we had the light right on top of our model. So even without a reflector, we can still see that our images are quite usable, and we can see each and every feature, and it actually facilitates the beauty of the images. So how about we take a few more shots, this time introducing the reflector, and see how it turns out. So we've introduced the reflector in the shots, and it's going to help us tell if this is a better lighting setup than before without it. So Tia, can you lift your face up a little bit more? Just like so. Good. So I've deliberately added in the shots the reflector so that you can actually tell that the use of the reflector is actually very dramatic. Okay, so Tia, I want you to keep your eyes over here. Good. Okay, I like it so far. You notice that because we pulled our subject all the way from the background in the pictures, you notice that the light isn't touching the background at all. And if we introduce the other lights, the two more lights that we're going to add onto the subject and our background, there's going to be a significant difference, and we are going to be able to separately or individually manipulate our lighting without any light spillage to mess up our pictures. Okay, now we've introduced the grid on the softbox and still with our reflector in the shots. Let's see how much more separation we can have from the background to our subject, and if the addition of the grid is going to make our pictures look much more dramatic. Okay, so let's take a test shot. And yes, I already love how it looks because there's not too much spillage, and our reflector is doing a great job by equating the lighting back into the shadowy areas. So I'm gonna this time actually close in to our subject, focus right in the face, and I'll take the image. Okay, I want you to lift up your face. Good. 3, 2, 1, ready. Open your eyes wider, a little bit more. Look right here. Good. 3, 2, 1. Good. So Ben, because I have the grid right in front of my softbox, I'm gonna have to have my reflector from this side so I can throw more light across her entire body and not just under the chin. Okay, so how about you place it down here on her knee, because I'm not gonna frame that part in addition to the shot. So I think this should do the work. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Good. Yes. So Tia, can you lift your face up? Good. 3, 2, 1. Good. Good. Beautiful. Turn your faces. Okay. Now look at me. 3. Don't lift your face up. Bring it down. 3, 2, 1. Good. And that's how basically you can use one light to, conform to any type of situation with a lot of diverse configurations, in addition to the use of a reflector to get some creative shots. I want us to look at some standing poses after the certain ones, and we're going to go through the same configurations of the lighting and the positioning like we did before. So I'm going to have Tia pose in some very unusual, unconventional ways so that we can bring out her physique so much more as we shoot it with one light. Even though you see this light, I'm going to introduce it after shooting with just one light like we did. Okay, so there's just a strip box with a speed light installed behind it, so it's going to be our second light when we turn it on. So let us begin. So looking at the position of the lights, I have taken out the grid so that we can have much more outpour and a little bit of light touching the background. This time I'm going to need it because I want to illuminate her much more, because if I had the grid in front of it, it would have casted a lot of nasty shadows, and I cannot have my reflector in the shot and still not have it appear in the frame. You get what I mean? So I'm going to do that without the grid this time, and let's see some poses that we can do with our model over here. Okay, so Tia, I want you to have the bag in your right hand like you have. Okay, cool. Then I want you to heave your hips out like so, right? Much more like what you did. Okay, cool, like so. But can you cross your legs some more so that we can, yes, get your physique come out some more, just like that, like an hourglass. Okay, cool. So I want you to turn your face this way. Cool. Let me get a couple of some shots. All right. So 3, 2, 1. Good. All right. Can you back up a little bit? Go back a little bit. A little bit more, so much more. Okay, good. Okay, now maintain that pose. Good. 3, 2, 1. Good. 3, 2, 1. Good. Lower your head. Good. 3, 2, 1. Good. All right. So we have interesting looks over here because I made her exaggerate her pose. You're tired, right? These poses are not easy to perform, but I think I'm actually in love with these pictures. So I'm sure you also love them too, right? Yes, 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 yes. So what I'm going to do is to make the scene look much more interesting in the pictures as well. So I'm going to turn on my strip box that's going to serve as my second light as well as a rim light. Let's see how interesting the look is going to turn. All right, so the speed light in the strip box is turned on. That means you're going to introduce yet a second light to the shot. So because there's going to be light sending itself in this direction, I'm going to have something to catch the light, all right? So I'm going to have my model, instead of having the bag in the right hand like we did before, this time in the left, so that when the light touches the bag, it will reflect and it will give it much more dimension. So let's see Tia do some interesting poses that way. So I think, yeah, hold your waist that way, cool. And continue to maintain the hourglass shape by crossing your legs, that way, cool. And I want you to look in this direction, but hold this up like that, cool, like so, and lean backwards. Good. Let me get your necklaces. The necklace in the right position, like so, good. So 3, 2, 1, ready, good. Lower your head a little bit. Good. Give me more dramatic looks. Sassiness. 3, 2, 1. Good. So just like you can tell in these pictures, you can notice that the catch light is actually carving out the bag in the hand of my model. So that's something that you can keep in mind, because when you don't have anything necessarily, but just the model in the shot, probably the catch light wouldn't really take her out. But if you have a prop in the hand like we do in our case, it can serve as a catch light for the rim lighting. All right, so this is the last setup we are going to work on, which involves 3 lights. So maintaining my AD600 through this softbox, the beautiful softbox, then my strip box still with my speed light, and with my third light, which is the interesting light in the scene at the moment, a continuous light, my SL60W Godox, and I'm going to bounce it right against the background so that it creates this halo effect. And when my subject stands right in front of the light, she blocks the light source, but you rather see the light, okay? So the bleed of the light that comes out from her creates a very nice and an interesting effect. So that's what we're going to go with. And yeah, let's start shooting. I'm going to bring the bag so that the light actually touches it. Okay. All right. So turn your face away some more and lower your head. But I want you to lean backwards. Good. Cool. So that brings your shoulders up like so. 3, 2, 1. Close your eyes and look down. And turn your face to your right. Turn your face to your right. Lower your head. Good. 3, 2, 1. All right. 3, 2, 1. All right, chin up a little bit. 3, 2, 1. Good. 3, 2, 1. One more time. 3, 2, 1. Hold it. Turn your face to your right. 3, 2, 1. Gorgeous. These are many more the ways that you can, configure a light from 1 light setup to 2, then to 3. You can even go as far as 6, 7 or more, depending on how you're going to creatively use it. But basically, if you're starting out with lighting photography, then you stay with the basics, master it. And yeah, I think the farther you should go can be 3, so you can creatively make sure that you've grasped everything. Then you can move on to the subsequent more advanced ones. So yeah, Tia, how did you find the shoot? It was wonderful and tiring, right? She's totally tired. But yeah, I mean, the poses that she had to do were kind of unconventional, but she pulled them off wonderfully. So yeah, this has been Copy Shots, and I'm going to catch you next time, the next video. Don't forget to subscribe. See ya.